The Mario movie has no story, right?
And wrong!
And it's easily the second stupidest complaint I keep hearing about it. So I'm here to refute that notion once and for all. Now look, I'm not going to argue that this movie is especially deep or anything, but to write it off as little more than a string of game-based set pieces, consisting of your Mario games, your Smash Brothers games, and your Mario Kart games, is really selling it short. Because there actually is a pretty clear plot structure, with constant setups and payoffs, one of which uses all three of the aforementioned sequences to not only tell the story, but makes them an essential part of our characters' arcs. We'll talk more about that last bit soon enough, but for now, I want to quickly recap the movie's major plot points, both to make a point, but also to inform or remind you of the overall story, as I'll be referencing specific moments throughout the rest of this series. When on the verge of bankruptcy for investing their life savings into their plumbing business, Mario and Luigi finally land their first customer. But after an initial taste of success, it quickly turns into a nightmare and they return home defeated. During dinner, their family mocks their business plan, with their dad specifically blaming Mario for chasing a dream while dragging Luigi down with him.
And the worst part? You're bringing your brother down with you.
Feeling dejected and worthless, Mario catches a breaking news story about a major flood in Brooklyn, which he views as an opportunity, once again dragging Luigi with him. But they fail at fixing that too, which then leads the plumbers to a mysterious pipe, which transports them to two different regions of a mysterious new world. Luigi to the Darklands and Mario in the Mushroom Kingdom, where he then encounters Toad, who takes him to the castle to meet the princess for guidance. Once there, Mario learns that she's on her own mission to stop Bowser in order to save her kingdom, and she promises to help Mario find his brother along the way. But she'll only allow him to accompany her if he can prove his worth by passing an obstacle course. Although he fails to pass the test. But impressed by his determination, she relents and allows Mario to join her anyway on her quest to find and convince a Kong army to join her. Upon arriving, the leader of the Kongs will only offer his army support if Mario can defeat his son in the Great Ring of Kong! Against all odds, Mario pulls it off. And in exchange, Cranky Kong not only keeps his promise, but also informs them that Bowser's attack on the Mushroom Kingdom is imminent, and they'll have to take a shortcut back in order to make it in time. But having learned of their plan, Bowser decides to ambush them while they're en route, which results in the entirety of the Kong army being kidnapped, Mario and Donkey Kong presumed dead, and leaving only Peach and Toad, who just barely survived, to return home and warn the citizens to evacuate the city. But Bowser isn't far behind, and when he arrives, he offers her a choice: marry him, or watch her citizens be tortured instead. Peach relents and the wedding is on. Thankfully, just before the wedding vows, Toad manages to sneak a power-up into her bouquet, allowing Peach to power up and gain the upper hand. Meanwhile, Mario and Donkey Kong, who actually didn't die by the way, despite being eaten by a giant eel, managed to return to the Mushroom Kingdom just as all this is going down. Then, Mario finds a Super Leaf just in time, and saves his brother from a terrible fate, just as Bowser launches one final countermeasure: a bomber build that'll completely annihilate the Mushroom Kingdom. Luckily, Mario just barely manages to distract it in time, and leads it to the same warp pipe that he first arrived from, causing it to detonate safely in the space between spaces. But this has the unattended effect of creating a vacuum, sucking everyone and everything nearby up, and transporting them back to Mario and Luigi's home of Brooklyn, New York, where the real final battle takes place, with one pissed off Bowser, who doesn't hold back. But just when Mario is on the verge of defeat, he finds it within himself to face down Bowser one more time, just before being joined by his brother, giving them the strength to grab the superstar together and putting Bowser down for good. And everyone lived happily ever after. Woo! So that sure was a lot of plot for a movie that supposedly has none. And that's even with skipping some pretty important details that we'll be getting into later. Now again, it's not the deepest or most complex story, but the main point is that there is in fact a story. One with a clear 3-act structure consisting of multiple plot points that derive from character-driven actions. This isn't just a protagonist who passively goes from scene to scene, but a character that's actively engaged with the story every step of the way, as nothing would get resolved if Mario didn't force it to. Again, I'm not saying this is exactly Shakespearean, but I hope that we can all agree that at the very least there is a story, which when you think about it is nothing short of a miracle considering what Illumination had to work with. For almost 40 years, this is practically all the story we've ever had. The princess gets kidnapped and Mario goes to rescue her. The end. Okay, well there was a one time when you had to rescue a different princess. Drama. And that other time when there were multiple princesses. Riveting. And even with what little story there is, it barely even matters considering there's no real continuity between the games anyway, with each one pretty much taking place in a vacuum where events from prior games have almost no bearing. Which is to say, there's no real character growth to speak of. Mario's Mario, and that's that. So the fact that Illumination not only managed to scavenge anything from this, but built something out of it, complete with characters that actually do grow and change, as we'll be exploring more in our later videos, while remaining faithful to the spirit of the games, is absolutely remarkable. Particularly because they managed to pull this off without relying on the one trope that the series has depended on for 4 decades. All without it feeling like a betrayal to the source material. So how did Illumination manage to pull this off? Well, a lot of it can be explained by the narrative framework that Illumination chose to use, which if you've taken any film classes, you may have already picked up on, as it's a framework that's shared with some of the most widely beloved films of all time, and it enabled Mario to finally do one thing that he couldn't do across nearly 40 years of games. And we'll be exploring that in part 4 of our ongoing Mario movie analysis series. Speaking of which, if you missed any of our prior entries, make sure to check out the full playlist to find them all. And don't forget to click the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss any upcoming parts. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.